Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, this is what I do. Don't know how to talk. Hi, hello, welcome. I'm Sherrilyn. I'm so glad you found me. If your girl's looking a little rough today, that is because I am feeling a little rough today. It was my oldest daughter's 18th birthday celebration this weekend. We went out for dinner with the family yesterday. I decided to also, indulge like it was my 18th birthday. So, but I made it. Perfect. And for everybody gassing me up on Instagram saying that there's no way I have an 18-year-old daughter, thank you. I felt like the Botox appointments were, starting to get closer together. So you guys really made me feel better. But for everybody curious, I had my daughter when I was 19. I've talked quite a bit about this on the channel, but I talk a lot, so very easy to forget. But yes, had my daughter at 19. She's now 18. I'm not okay. I'm just pretending that this isn't really happening, and that's how I'm coping. Okay, so perfect. Let's just get on with it. Oh crap, I didn't get a riddle going. Let's just whip one up, okay? Oh, I love this. I literally just got this one as we're going, like as I read it. Okay, so I think everybody's gonna get this one, but I love that for us. Okay, today's riddle is. Also, if you're new here and you're like, what the fuck are we doing a riddle for? This is just how we start the episodes. Nice little decompression. Usually the palate cleanser. Usually the palate cleanser comes at the end, and then that's when I give you the riddle, right? Okay, anyways. The riddle answer. It's going to be a rough one today. Today's riddle. What belongs to you but is used by everyone you meet? It's an easy one. It's a good one. Okay. All right. Today's episode, I don't even know how to categorize it. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about what can be done, how we can move forward in the future with trying to present 6 sickos, like the people we're going to be talking, or the person we're going to be talking about today, how to stop them from being that and having some accountability for their actions. All right. It's this is a case I've been working on for a while. I'm very excited to share it with you. I actually have been able to collaborate with the victim. She is such a badass. I can't wait to introduce her to you SippinTales because I've talked you guys up so much and you guys are all badasses as well. So she'll just fit in so nicely here. But I have some of the interview clipped in here as well. Ugh, seriously, just buckle the F up, okay? I have not been able to stop talking about this for so long, and I'm so excited to finally just be able to share everything with you. If you are in the SippinTales book club, you're most likely up to speed on what we're going to be talking about today. So for everybody who isn't, let me just get you caught up, okay? So several months ago, I was looking up anticipated book releases that were coming up, and there was a title of a book coming out that really caught my attention. It was called There Is No Ethan, How 3 Women Caught One of America's Biggest Catfish, written by Dr. Anna Akbari. And right away, I was hooked by the title itself. There was actually a New York Times article written by Katie Baker, and just her description of it absolutely nails it. She calls the book There Is No Ethan a jaw-dropping tale of digital deception. It is billed as a memoir, and it often reads like a true crime thriller. And that's the case. That's why we're talking about it here today, okay? So it's not, there's so many layers. There's so much to this than just like a catfish story. And I don't want to minimize any form of catfishing, but yeah, okay. Katie nailed it. Long story short, came across this article when I was like, oh, There Is No Ethan. I want to know more about it. And there was an article that was written by Anna Akbari in 2014, so prior to her writing her book. And the article was called The Talented Mr. Schumann, Love and Mistaken Identity in the Internet. Now, the reason she wrote this article was because she wanted to get her experience out there of what happened to her and other women. So I reached out to Anna, and she's so lovely. She ended up sending me an early release copy of her book. She also sent several copies, which was so nice, to a few of our book club members. And she's also going to be doing a Q&A at the next book club virtual meetup, which is very exciting. You can still participate in that if you would like to. The link for Fable, where I'm going to be posting that link, is in the description. Going on a tangent here, sorry. Since her and I did an interview together, I'm going to have, sprinkles of that to have her help me tell the story. her story. Now, there are spoilers because I want to dive into the person that we are talking about. So if you want to read the book first, I highly recommend reading it. If you are watching and you don't mind a spoiler, I still definitely encourage you to read the book. It needs to be a Netflix documentary, I swear. It's so good, okay? It's so good. And no, I don't have shares in the book. Anytime I'm passionate about something. Okay, let's get started. We're going to take it back to the late 2010s. Okay, it's actually 2010, not tens, 2010. It's the day after Christmas to be exact. And Anna Akbari is testing the waters like many people, especially in the earlier days of online dating. And she pops online on OkCupid and she gets a message from somebody with the handle Beyond Sleeping. And the explanation for the username was that he was just too excited about life to waste time sleeping. The message she received just said, "Welcome to the real world," with like a smiley face. And Anna said that it was apparent pretty quickly that this person who introduced himself as Ethan Schulman was very intriguing, intelligent, and there was an instant strong connection between the two of them. In Anna's article, she describes Ethan as 6 feet tall, 35 years old, and approachably attractive with a very impressive resume. And he definitely did. He went to, I don't know how to pronounce the high school because I think it's like, a bit too elite for me. Stuyvesant High School? Am I putting too much emphasis into it? And then Ethan also went to Columbia and graduated early from both. So this is impressive. He also worked for the government, had a PhD in applied mathematics at MIT, and split his time between DC, Dublin, and New York while he was working for a part-time consultant for Morgan Stanley. On top of being intelligent, Ethan was also very charming, and something Anna really liked about corresponding with Ethan is that he was always available to chat, which was very refreshing for her from being in the dating world in New York. Anna herself is very accomplished and intelligent. She has a PhD in sociology and was teaching at NYU. And so she really wasn't wanting to waste her time, doing any dating that was unserious. And so having that instant kind of connection and interest and just quickly moving forward was definitely appealing.
And so that was all happening, but also New York City is just this very cutthroat kind of, no one wants to commit. Everyone's always looking for the next best shiny object. So when you do connect with someone that you feel a rapport with and who is really telling you, hey, I'd also like a connection, you pay attention to that.
Right. Now, one of the reasons why I really want to encourage you to also read the book is because Anna has all of the correspondence on there. So it really allows you to feel like you're kind of a fly on the wall in these exchanges. And these are the days where texting was very minimal. So over the next 6 weeks, her and Ethan they're exchanging countless emails and also G-chats.
You would transition to G-chat, to Google's Instant Messenger. And that's what Ethan and I did very quickly the first night that we connected. So it was a lot of long form, text-based communication, but not typing on your phone. It was really typing with your fingers. And if you were a fast typist, like Ethan and I were, that facilitated the exchange of so many more words than most online daters could fathom. Swiping didn't exist. So your words were golden back then. You needed to be able to chat someone up. You also did not have to mutually match. Someone just initiated a message and then you could either respond or not respond. So again, it was all about the messages. And so that's the context in which we were operating. It is hard to imagine because it's just such a different universe now that we operate in.
Within these intense exchanges, they learned a lot about each other. Anna learned that he owned an apartment on the Upper East Side. He also had a place in Washington, D.C. He had a dog named Harvey, drove a BMW. She said he loved elbow patches and pickles and preferred boxers to boxer briefs. Now, there is a weird twist of fate in this story, especially at the beginning, that definitely sided with Ethan. And it was the timing for the two of them meeting in person was not the best. They meet the day after Christmas. So you've got Christmas, New Year's. They had their travel schedules. There was also multiple snowstorms that were I think one of the worst that the area had seen, that was really making it impossible for them to meet over several weeks. So since the plan ultimately was going to meet in person, obviously, and there was something special about the connection and the communication that they were having just by having their email and GChat exchanges, they decided that they wanted that in-person meeting to be really special. So they were just going to stick to the email and the GChat since it wasn't going to be forever, and wait to see each other in person for that experience, that in-person experience. They had seen photos of each other, but they didn't want to get on a Zoom call or Skype. I don't even know if they had Zoom. I think it was Skype. And if you were an early Skype user, it's just no bueno. Okay. Really grainy, just not the best representation. And they wanted something really special to look forward to. All of that being said, Anna admits that looking back, there were some red flags even from the beginning. One of them being that the primary reason that most of their correspondence was on the computer was because Ethan had a Irish phone number. And this is, the good old days where international texting was not unlimited. It cost a lot just to send a hi. And he explained that the Irish number was what made most sense for him, pretty much for his job, since he had a lot of work in Ireland and was going back and forth, and a lot of their clients were in Ireland. It just made more sense as opposed to having two phones. And there was another, questionable moment when Anna was talking to a friend of hers who had graduated from both the same high school as Ethan, as well as the university that Ethan graduated from. And when she asked if he knew Ethan, he didn't recognize the name. And she, in all fairness, she was they were both really big campuses, so it was understandable. So that kind of explained itself away pretty quickly. But then when she asked her friend to look through the yearbook out of curiosity, there's no Ethan Schulman. And when she casually brings this up, it wasn't in an accusatory way. I think she just kind of tried to play it off as a little bit playful, where were you on picture day? Ethan quickly flipped things around, got really angry at her for questioning, and was just kind of deflecting back, being well, if you feel like you have to do this, what are we even doing? Why are we even trying to build a connection if you already don't trust me? Anna said these types of exchanges happen kind of more frequently as the weeks progressed and got closer to their meeting day, which they decided to be on January 14th. But she said for the most part, Ethan was very caring, and then it would just be something very random and unexpected that would set him off and kind of throw her for a loop as well. But it's that toxicity, the exchanges, and the way that he would kind of own up to it, but then also be are you seeing where my things are coming from, or my side is where I'm coming from, my side of things. Anna was oh, okay, maybe maybe I read into that too much, or I jumped to conclusions, as toxic relationships tend to do. You're always kind of second guessing yourself. So let's fast forward to the meeting. January 14th, Anna messages Ethan in the morning and asks where they should meet. And he replies pretty quickly saying, I just need 1 second and I'll get back to you. So she's okay, no big deal. 15 minutes pass, nothing. 30 minutes pass, no reply. She's called, left a voicemail, doesn't hear back. And she's getting a pit in her stomach, tries a couple more times, and didn't hear from Ethan for the rest of the day or night. Now, shortly after their first chat, Ethan had told Anna that he was experiencing some issues swallowing, and this had gone on for about a year. And when he reaches out to her, he apologizes and says he had been hospitalized and that it had flared up again, and he was going to be having some more tests done. So he apologizes for going MIA, but explains that he had just found out that it was esophageal cancer and he needed surgery immediately, followed by chemotherapy. And so this news, she doesn't even know how to process because, she's upset about not seeing him. And then now all of a sudden there's an explanation and it's horrifying. It was also something that was very sensitive to her, particularly at that time because she had just recently lost a very close family member of hers to cancer. So she was still reeling from that loss and thinking to herself, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of being angry about not meeting up with him. He's going through this and I can't, not be there or support or abandon somebody in this state, regardless of ever having met them, one-on-one in person.
So when he's not only told me that he had cancer and had to have surgery and had to get chemo, but that he didn't want to meet me during that time because that wasn't the physical state that he wanted to be in. And again, I want to emphasize, and I tried to illustrate this in the book, Ethan is great with his words. And so the way he presented this, he makes a very strong case on his own behalf. And then it just came down to whether or not I was going to respect that. I could essentially say, no, you have to meet me now, even though you're not comfortable and you don't feel confident meeting me in this state, or I'm going to walk away. And both of those felt like accepting what he was asking and walking away both didn't feel very satisfying.
So once Ethan says to Anna that he's got this upcoming surgery, he says it's going to happen pretty fast. It's only a few days away. And he asked her just to be patient because now he didn't want to meet her while he wasn't his best and while he was sick and anticipating this upcoming surgery. Conveniently, this also means that they're not going to have a phone exchange either during this period because it made him difficult to talk, this type of cancer. Due to the earlier question marks in their exchange, Anna had this gut feeling that she should dig a little bit, but then also is wrestling with that decision because she's like, why would anybody lie about cancer, especially since the two of them had that conversation about her loved one just recently passing. No one would do that. And she kind of felt terrible for even considering that somebody would lie and use that as an excuse. So then she's, buying time going back and forth with herself until she ultimately comes to the decision that she's going to do some digging and ran a search for an Ethan Schulman on the Upper West Side. Now, I always say this, women who don't even have any credentials to be detectives should. It's like we're all just born with that gift. And so I trust that Anna's investigative skills were top notch. Doesn't find anything. Also keep in mind, this is like the earlier days of being able to find like everything out about somebody on the internet. So she decides to go back to her friend who had graduated from the same school, and this time just search every yearbook, like all of the years, because there's bound to be one of them if they went to the school at the same time that would have Ethan in there. Once again, none of them have anything. So at this point, she reassures herself that, okay, I'm not going crazy here. Regardless of if he has cancer or not, he's not being truthful. Like, there are things here that are not adding up. So throughout the next few weeks, she sees how it plays out. He goes through his surgery and then they do set a date to finally meet. Once again, though, when that date approaches, there's another excuse and Ethan doesn't show. She had kind of set up the expectation for herself that this probably was going to happen. So, if they ended up getting together, then great. Like, they can just move on with this next chapter and phase of things. And so she kind of had like a guard up and was expecting it. And while doing that, the fog was kind of starting to clear. So by February 10th, Anna just gives Ethan an ultimatum and is basically like, you know what, I'm so sorry that you're going through this health-wise, but I need you to understand just for my emotions as well. And for yours, like, we don't need to be doing this back and forth. Clearly, if you're sick, you have a lot to contend with, if you don't want me to be a part of any of that healing, that's okay. We just we need to meet. You need to materialize for me, but I need to see you in person. And he refused. So at that point, Anna made the decision to cut off contact and started exploring other options. Ethan did try reaching out for a few weeks, and as much as she was just trying to put him out of her mind, forget about it, it sounds like it was kind of like whiplash for her, just trying to process everything that happened, why, and still deciphering between what is real and what isn't. And that's totally understandable. It's like, even if you have made the decision that, okay, you're going to stop investing the times, you're going to have that question of okay, well, what happened here though? There's just that natural curiosity of just being a human. Who are you? Was any of it true? Is a sprinkle of it true? So remember the little, twists of fate where things were in Ethan's favor early on with keeping them from meeting each other in person. All of a sudden, that started to shift in Anna's favor. And it started with that same friend that she had reached out to look at the yearbooks, him reaching out to Anna now, saying that there was another woman. And it started with Anna's friend, the one that she had reached out to look into the yearbooks, him now reaching out to Anna, saying that another woman, a woman named Gina, found him on Facebook and asked also if he knew an Ethan Schulman, and had included the exact same photo that Anna had sent him 2 months prior. Quick editing note, if we can enter Anna talking about this.
I had made many allowances for Ethan, and around Valentine's Day I said, that's it, no more. You have to materialize, cancer or not, or we can't keep doing this. And I really cut him off at that point. And so about 3 weeks later, I got a message from my friend who went to Stuyvesant in Columbia, and he said, I think there's a girl who's also seen the same guy. And she had forwarded him the same picture that I had forwarded to him.
Right.
Which is weird because we both received lots of photos. And she had very randomly just been searching on Facebook and online for anyone who went to both Stuyvesant and Columbia and would have overlapped in the years that Ethan did. And there are others.
Well, of course, yeah.
and so I honestly was absolutely floored. He connected us. We immediately had a phone conversation.
Anna gets in touch with her, and she finds out this is another very well-educated woman. She's a 34-year-old Princeton and Harvard graduate. She's an architect from Philly. Go Birds. And Gina's story is almost identical to Anna's. Even time-wise, it seems that Ethan was corresponding with Gina and Anna at the same time, which is just kind of wild because it was so intense. And that is something that you will see in the book as you're reading the correspondence. It's where do you have a minute? Even Anna said there were multiple days and nights where they just didn't sleep because they're constantly talking. So Jean is also going through this. And she had initially become suspicious when they also had plans to meet, and then there would be something that came up and he wouldn't materialize. And so there was a point where they were going to go to they were going to meet at a hotel. And so he said that he had made this booking at this hotel. That kind of sounded like it was a by the hour thing. It wasn't one of those situations. I think it was we're going to go for dinner or whatever, and I'll go out and meet you, and I'm going to stay at this hotel. So she called to confirm the reservation, and there's no record of Ethan Schulman there. And she didn't aggressively confront, just asks am I getting the hotel room? Because I just wanted to confirm, and they don't have it. So maybe you should look into it. And then he's irate that she looked into it. How could she insult him? And he basically explains it as he had canceled the reservation just briefly and then rebooked it so that he could get a better rate. And so she takes the explanation, even if she's a little bit suspicious. And then the next day she said there were a dozen roses that showed up to her office. And then there was a card in it that said, "To my lady, the label looks great on you. And so very similar to Anna's experience, they would kind of go through these like where they'd have an argument or Ethan would react like quite aggressively about being questioned. And then there'd be like the big makeup and make you feel bad for even second guessing. But it got to the point where she, like Anna, was like, I can't take this any longer. Like I'm wasting way too much time here. And clearly there just must be something in the universe that is just wanting to keep us apart anyway. So we might as well just not even invest any more time here. Once Anna and Gina had gotten together, they realized that Ethan was sharing some of the real life details with each of them as well. So he was talking to Gina about Anna, and he's explaining her as kind of like this inflated version of herself. Instead of just being a sociologist, she's a sex sociologist. And he starts explaining to Gina how, like crazy and wild Anna is in bed. So implying that this was somebody in his life, in his past, and that they had met. He also spoke to both Anna from New York and Gina about another Anna, and they refer to her as British Anna. British Anna is a psychologist, and the way Ethan described her to both the ladies was pretty much that she was the one in his life that had gotten away. They had met on a internet dating site called JDate in 2008. And that was Ethan's downfall. It was kind of giving information and names and trying to sprinkle. They couldn't know what was fact and fiction. They were assuming that he never had met British Anna either, once Gina was saying like, oh, well, he implied that, you guys had been together, did some wild things together. And so they're like, A, does British Anna even exist? Or B, like, did they ever meet? So these women, this is again going back to getting jobs in private investigation, they don't even have her last name. Start to do their investigation and find this woman. Her name is Anna. She's in the UK. And so therefore British Anna, and she was real. And when they find her, they found out that what she was involved in with Ethan was just like so much worse than what they had gone through emotionally. It was so deep. They had met in 2008 on JDate and dated for about 2.5 years. And she fell very hard, very fast, which is something that Anna says it was easy to do just because of the charm and the wit and the intelligence of this person. And very early on in their exchange, Ethan had said that he was going to get a webcam. And it was just kind of always like an excuse. It was like, oh yeah, like I'm going to get one. The one I have right now is broken and I just don't even have a minute to, have lunch some days from work. Like I'm just so busy, but it's on the list. And then over time, if she'd bring up the webcam thing, it would just kind of just be a little bit dismissed, like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry. And then the next day, flowers would show up to her home with a note saying, thank you so much for having faith in me and being patient. All of the things that we're planning, they're going to come soon enough. Soon the webcam thing wasn't even an issue because there was a time in their exchange where Anna was going to be in Boston. And so he made the plan that he was going to drive and go and visit her. What do you know it though? The day that she leaves to go to Boston, Ethan is sent to Japan for work. So that was probably the first real big letdown and disappointment. But she understood, like, this is, if it's work, it's out of her control. And then she said, basically the entire time of him being in Japan, he's emailing her photos of being there and messaging her throughout the trip, just like reassuring her that this was out of his control, but he still wanted to communicate and make sure that she didn't think that he was avoiding her and that this was just horrible timing for them. So they planned for the next trip, which was going to be him coming out to see her in London. He sent a link confirming the flights and the hotel that she had booked, or he had booked, and British Anna planned her schedule around him coming, took the time off work and everything, and then when the day came, he never arrived. In this same breath, though, with every uncertainty that she was having, Ethan would do things to legitimize himself, by sending photos throughout the trip in Japan. He sent her a copy of his driver's license, a piece that he had co-authored for MIT. He also sent his undergrad for Columbia, like his thesis and dissertation. There were also a couple serious health issues that had come up that, again, prevented them from meeting in person, which he was able to confirm by sending her the medical records and even x-rays of broken bones from a car accident that he had gotten to one of the times. There was like a mugging, there was, again, this esophageal cancer, a car accident, and he was able to confirm all of these things. Ethan also had a cast of characters, if you would, that would come into their exchanges and corroborate his story. One of them was his soon-to-be ex-wife, Katie, who he's saying to British Anna, being very open with everything, that they were going through a divorce. And she had no choice but to believe that there was a Katie, because one day Katie Skypes British Anna and is saying, like, please don't tell Ethan that I'm doing this. But I just felt like as a woman, I just wanted to let you know that everything is over between us. She also spoke to Ethan's sister, who said her name was Riva. They had corresponded a few times over email. They also had a phone call. And Riva just explains Ethan is just like kind of like a complicated guy and confirms that all of these things are happening and it's just bad timing. But she's thankful that Anna's willing to hold on for her brother and can't wait to meet her, and it's all going to be worth it. By the time New York Anna and Gina had found British Anna, she had only just recently gotten herself out of the black hole that she had been in during her time with Ethan. So she was a little bit hesitant and unsure what was going down when she hears from the two women, which they can absolutely understand. And so it took her a little bit, but she finally agreed to get on a video call with them. Everyone can see each other. They've materialized and they're comparing stories. So just by comparing stories, they quickly realize they've all been conned and that it's the same person. This isn't just like some weird connection or even just similarity and that it was all different people. There was the same person was conning all of them. So each of them contact Ethan and let him know, hey, we know you're a fraud. We don't know to what degree or why you're doing this, but we know there's something going on. And they gave him a deadline to just come out and admit who he was and what was going on. So this is interesting too. In the book, Ethan is trying his best to manipulate, which every woman says he was very good at. That's why they kept communicating for as long as they did. And then was trying, some table turning tactics like pitting the women against each other. But they're in constant communication and they're like, we are staying strong. This is what he does. While they just wanted Ethan to come outright and just be honest, they also knew that based off their experiences with him not being truthful, that even if he were to come clean with what was going on, there wouldn't really be a way to fully trust anything that he said about his identity. So they're still going ham behind the scenes, dissecting every little thing, looking through and forwarding all of their correspondence to see if there's some tether of a piece of truth that can lead them to the answer of who Ethan is. And Anna says it was Gina who first shares with the other gals that she had read an article about a similar case, and she read this article while she was still communicating with Ethan, and that kind of set off a little bit of an unsettling feeling. And then that evening that she had read that article, had a very vivid dream about a woman turning into a man and seducing her. And so after that dream, she just always had this little person on her shoulder convincing her that Ethan was a woman. And when she brought this to British Anna and New York Anna, they were like, okay, Ethan's a lot of things, but that one is too far-fetched because he was very masculine and nothing in the correspondence gave any indication that it was a woman. So again, they go back pouring through every name of, a character or someone in their life that they had been given, hoping that maybe that would be a real person. And then that is actually what leads the Annas to partially getting on board with looking into this woman angle, because British Anna had remembered that she spoke to his sister, spoke to this soon-to-be ex-wife, but then also remembered a MIT roommate that Ethan had mentioned named Emily. So after 48 hours with just that name, they find who they believe to be Ethan Schulman's real identity. And her name is Emily Slutsky. Everything about Emily aligned with Ethan. She attended the same universities as Ethan, was also attending medical school in Ireland, which explained the Irish phone number. And so Anna locates Emily's father and calls him and just impersonates being like a fellow MIT alum wanting to follow up and check in with Emily. And so Emily's father gives Gina her number. And what do you know it? It's Ethan's number. At this point, they again call her out and say, like, now we have this is your email address, and used her real email address, and then messaged on the phone that they were all texting and corresponding on. And at this point, Emily admits that, yeah, it was her the whole time. What was really odd about that situation is she personally spoke to British Anna and Gina and, kind of tried to give them a sob story, and is on the phone with them for hours just trying to win them back and talk about all the struggles and kind of like what led her to do this and understanding that it was wrong. But she never called New York Anna. And it was almost like she blamed her for being the one to really like push things forward. And I think probably because they were the last ones to interact and she had given the ultimatum. So just kind of saw Anna as being the one that probably spearheaded this whole thing.
Yeah, Ethan quickly went from being in love with me to hating me. And that never changed. Even once we outed him and we knew the truth, I was definitely the one that he hated, that he feared, that he just had seemingly no empathy for, what he had put me through. It was interesting. I guess I can feel proud about that, that I was not his favorite and that he knew that I would not stand for what he had done.
Now, here's where you guys need to buckle up. You're going to start seeing the steam. Beyond that realization of just the level of shock and deception processing that Ethan was a woman, the morality of this situation is so much worse. Now, in 2011, when all of this came to head, Emily was in school to become a medical doctor. And when Gina, Anna, and Anna find out about this, they're absolutely horrified because they're like, oh my gosh, like a doctor, she's right now, probably even if she's like interning or I guess like doing residency, she's got access to people who are in very vulnerable situations of their life. And so they decide to contact her medical school. They also reached out to her sister to say like, hey, like something's wrong with your sister. you guys need to get her, reel her in. They know that the medical school received their complaint or their tip about who Emily really was behind the scenes. They did nothing. And her sister never even replied to them. So Emily's given another ultimatum and they give her a Sunday deadline to kind of come clean with everybody in her life about what was going on. Part of that was actually confessing to the person whose photos she had been using. This was somebody that she actually knew and had gone to school with. I don't believe that they were very close. It was a classmate of hers in high school. And she had been posing as this person since high school. Not that person directly. It was like Ethan was a character and then that person's photos was the face of Ethan. And they had no idea. He had no idea this was going on. They also wanted her to tell her family and seek medical assistance. Like tell and show us that you are going to get help because there is something going on here? She pretty much says to them, like, absolutely, you're right. Everything that I've done is wrong. I was just in a really terrible place like years ago. And then I've gotten myself caught up in this charade, something that I had used, once to just kind of escape all of, my pressures and stress in life, snowballed and turned into what it is now. She said it was during those earlier days where she had met British Anna. And then it got to the point where for herself, Emily, it was hard to cut anything off from her because they had gotten so used to corresponding and building a connection that she relied on. What's really unsettling is that she said she had used this as a tool to just kind of escape. But then reflecting back, she's like, there's really nothing wrong with my life. I've been successful. I come from a very good family. They all love me. I've had friends. I've traveled a lot. I've lived my life. Like, there was really nothing lacking emotionally or, mentally. So even that, the women were like, this is just so, quote unquote, Ethan, to talk in circles and try to twist the narrative. But then in the same sense, when you really digest it, it didn't make any sense. And oh my gosh, there's this one point where she admits that when things had gotten cut off with her and British Anna, which was, like right when she started talking with Anna and Gina, she didn't know how to then process not having that because that had been like 2.5 years of her life. So she started back up again being Ethan, and that's when she met Anna and Gina. And she went into it like a smoker that was trying to quit, but doing it by just having, a half a pack a day instead of a full pack a day, or half a cigarette instead of full cigarette. That's what Anna and Gina were to her while she tried to, get out of that relationship or interaction that she was having with British Anna and then integrate back into her real life. And one thing Emily didn't really lie about was her credentials and accomplishments. Like I said, it's painful to say anybody who does wrong, being like, oh, they're really intelligent. They're really good at what they do. But Emily's really intelligent. She has a degree in nuclear science and engineering, biomedical engineering, and literature from MIT. She was also the editor-in-chief of the MIT's journal. I think it's called Rune Journal. And the president of the sorority there. She has I believe, a master's of science in medical physics from Columbia and an MD from the University of Cork, from University College Cork. On top of that, she also has a postgraduate certificate in clinical informatics from Cornell. See, wait, above my intelligence because I can't even pronounce half of this stuff. And today, as I slap my mic, today, Emily is a doctor. She's an OBGYN, in fact. And to me, that piece is so freaking unhinged and disturbing. To me, to do this to women and then basically be a doctor of women who oftentimes are vulnerable and, not always in the best situation. It doesn't just mean I think a lot of people are just like, oh, baby doctor. No, this, you're a gynecologist. You go to a gynecologist for a plethora of reasons. So to have somebody who has done this to women so closely intertwined in women patients makes me sick. So at the point where they had said, you've got to come clean to everybody, Anna is like, I know that this is just not enough. I have to do something to try to get the word out there. So she had started by just writing a blog about Ethan Schumann, so that if somebody else like her and the other ladies did like they did and looked up at Ethan Schumann, there would be something, hopefully, they would come across the blog. Not only did they find other victims by doing this, they also found out that 2 years after Emily, apologized and gave this big explanation and promised, I'm never going to do this again. I know how wrong this was. They find out that she's still at it. She's still doing this. They found new people who were being victimized by Emily Slutsky. One of the women who shared her story, it was very similar to British Anna's very long, over 2 year online relationship that was just pure manipulation and deceit. And when she found out, similar to British Anna as well, it was a very like confusing, painful time of just trying to heal, not just the fact that this, that Ethan didn't exist, but there's also this form of almost like a Stockholm syndrome, because they had gotten so close. They were very vulnerable too. There was a more intimate aspect of like online exchanges, and I can't imagine what that would have been like to process. Not only had those women experienced that level of deceit and deception, but they found out that Emily's first victim had been communicating with Emily the longest, and it had been going on for 9 years, starting in an AOL chat room when Emily was only 17 years old. To me, that is just so beyond, to be able to keep up with it and lie and just have no heart or regard for somebody's emotions. That's why I felt like compelled to talk about this, because I know it's not a typical case that I would cover. No one's lost their life, or it's not really like a cult or anything like that, but it's just like the level of deceit and the years of just this twisted commitment coming from a doctor, an OBGYN. That I can't get over. It's so immoral. And I can't help but think, like, who's to say there isn't a possible overlap or exchange with a patient that was conned? Maybe not after being a patient, but it could have been someone from their past. The water is beyond murky. And what's really frustrating is British Anna, Gina, and other survivors, they've tried to report her and they haven't even been acknowledged. So right now, she's actually the director of women's health and medical genetics at a prestigious hospital in New Jersey. Her affiliations are at the Jersey City Medical Center, as well as the RWJ Barnabas Health Medical Group.
I am faculty OBGYN and medical director of the medical genetics division here at Jersey City Medical Center.
This is where my frustration goes, because a con like this is so, it's not unheard of. Actually, it's more common, I think, than we know, because generally you just think of, okay, being catfished or, conned online is you were scammed in some type of way and somebody, stole your identity or got money out of you. But this emotional con, manipulation, to me it's so much worse. Like, it's so sick. And I think, like, as a victim, I had this conversation with my good gal pal Chelsea Suarez, and we were talking about what would you rather. And we both said, like, we would way rather be like, oh yeah, they got some money out of me, like that was their intention. But to mess with people to this degree, and then to find out that it's a doctor, like a woman's doctor, is just so messed up. And we do need to, like, I think just naturally we hold our doctors to a different standard. And doctors take the Hippocratic Oath. And one of the main things that everybody knows about it is that they will do no harm. They will conduct themselves in society by not harming people. And it's actually one of the quotes: I will abstain from all intentional wrongdoing and harm. And it's like, hi, you took this oath. That doesn't mean in your job, like, this is how you conduct yourselves. And me knowing and being close to several doctors in my life, that's how they conduct themselves on the daily. You won't generally see them slip when they're out in public. They know, like, they're kind of always on, always ready to jump in and help if needed. But what she did, because again, let's call it what it is, the woman's really smart, but what she did is used that knowledge of what she was learning to become a doctor to fake things like having cancer. So, and knowing what she's talking about so that it seems even more legit, or, her family members being sick, and used that to manipulate women. And with all of this being said, the justice for these women is very complex because technically speaking, Emily didn't do anything illegal. She didn't extort them for any money, which doesn't say that what she did, the level of lying and conning, is less relevant. Some of these women went through it for years. Like, that is just so freaking twisted. But at the moment right now, there really isn't anything that protects victims from this type of manipulation. And that just seems so icky and violating just on its own. But then when you couple that with this being a woman's doctor, I cannot. And then her bio on her website, it gave me a whole other level of icky. Oh, I'm going to forget this thought too quickly before I do this. Emily Slutsky, I'm going to have links in my description here, but Emily Slutsky also is recently going by another last name, and it's Dr. Emily Marantz, Marantz. So just in case, you come across that and be like, oh, maybe it's not the same woman. No, it is. Yeah, same picture. So she's got several websites and stuff and bios. So in one of these, it says that Emily's long and successful educational journey has prepared her with the necessary skills to take on this new era of technology challenges. It just drives me crazy when she references a lot. It says like she's a technology professional with a background in science and engineering, and then is saying that she's her successful education has prepared her to tackle these technology areas. And it's like, yeah, we know how skilled you are with technology by conning women. Basically, all of the accomplishments that Ethan said he had, Emily has. This one's also really rich. I believe in the science of numbers with the ultimate goal of making the patient experience more effective, more empathetic, and more human. She goes on to say, there is humanity behind the numbers, behind the data points, behind the calculus. That humanity has every potential to advance our healthcare system. Where is the humanity behind the women that you were corresponding with, traumatizing them? You sicko. You guys, like, I'm raging. I don't encourage harassment. Like Chelsea says, what does she say? This is not a petting zoo. Don't put your hand in the cages. I'm probably getting that wrong. Right now, there are mass reportings going on. Not mass, actually. I was shocked to see. I don't think the story has quite picked up the traction that it needs to yet, which I'm seeing that every day it is getting more. But like Rate MD, she's going down. She's going down on Rate MD. She went, I think, from 5 to like 1 star, with people saying like, absolutely we don't want to trust people like this. And this is tricky because I don't want the person harassed, but I do encourage bringing attention to the higher ups that, I don't know, need to have some say in it, explanation. I really just, I want to understand how somebody like this can continue to provide care, proper care to women specifically after doing what she's done. And the way that I see it is it's no different than, signing petition and outreaching to politicians and police for considerations of like opening up cases that we're passionate about. So, like we all know what's right or wrong. We don't want to threaten anybody, but I do support this person being accountable for what has done. We don't even know what has happened behind the scenes since, Anna and British Anna and Gina have stepped away from all of this and not communicated with this person anymore. Just based on the fact that 2 years after they had stopped communication, then they found new victims says a lot. And that's why, in my opinion, I would not be surprised if there are more that are going to come forward. And for that reason, I think that it does need to be directed to like head of medical departments, like what this person is doing. And I'm going to repeat it till I'm blue in the freaking face. But the fact that she is an OBGYN doing this potentially still to women is just so sick. And I'm not able to lower my blood pressure because of this. So Yeah. One really huge way that you can support victims here and future victims is reading Anna's book. Like I am telling you, being able to read that correspondence and really just being able to take everything in as if you were there in real time it's just like it's something else, and it is going to take you to a whole nother level of understanding like what the severity of the situation here if this video didn't do it for you. It's a must read. And also, if you are wanting to read and join in our interactive Q&A with Anna Akbari, she is going to be doing that with Book Club on July 27th, so make sure that you are following the SippinTales book club on the Fable app. I will have that linked in my description, and then the link for that call always goes in the Fable app. Yeah, so I'm so curious to hear your guys' thoughts. I feel weird because this has been such a huge part of my life for like a couple months here, and talking to Anna and reading everything and just trying to process the whole thing is, I'm like, oh, now the video's done. Like, I don't know how to move forward. So, yeah, it's been nice. I can't imagine how reassuring and comforting it feels to the victims that slowly the story is gaining traction and people are becoming aware. And I think at the end of the day, that is really all they want, is that they just don't want anybody else to go through the trauma that they experienced. And I don't blame them, because like I just feel like this sense of anger and connection just by talking to Anna and being like, girl, you need some vindication. No. You need some, yeah, she needs to be vindicated by the trauma? I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong word. I'm not a doctor, you guys. I am sweaty. Okay, this is where I'm leaving you guys. I can't wait to hear from you in the comments. Like I said, please don't harass anybody. You know, if you'd like to have your voice heard, or encourage people to read the book. You know, we really want to get the awareness out there for past victims, to let them know that they're not alone, potential future victims, so that they don't become a victim. And yeah, please read Anna's book. It's phenomenal. Okay, quick riddle answer. Reminder of the riddle. What belongs to you but is used by everyone you meet? And the answer is your name. Belongs to you, but everybody else uses it. Okay, that was easy one. All right, I will see you in the next video. I hope I will see a lot of new faces on the call, and you guys can send some love and support to Anna, ask her questions as well. I will see you in the next video, though. Until then, make sure to love each other, love yourself, and I will see you soon. Bye.